my February TBR video, you saw I have a lot of ARCs to get around to. In case you don't know, ARCs are advanced reader copies, and I ended up requesting a lot on NetGalley and getting a lot, and I'm trying to get through a lot of them. So this is the first of what might be 2 videos as I'm trying to really hold myself accountable to getting through these ARCs this month. So in this video, I'm going to be trying to read 5 ARCs. All of these are coming out in February or came out right at the end of January, and I'm trying to get all caught up. First on my list is Going Dark by Melissa De La Cruz. This is a YA thriller that is about this influencer who goes missing. You follow multiple POVs and you try to discover what happened to Amelia Ashley. This book came out on January 31st, so I'm a little bit behind on it, so that's why we're prioritizing that one first. Next is Where Darkness Blooms by Andrea Hanna, and as you can see, the publisher also graciously sent me a copy of this one, and this one is coming out on February 21st. This is a YA horror with fantasy elements about this town and these girls and these things going wrong, and I'll tell you more about it once I know. Third up is Scorched Grace, which is coming out on February 21st. This is about a nun who is investigating these crimes going on. Then we have Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes, which sounds really fun, and it's about what it says it is, about this place where you can murder your employer. I think it's gonna be witty and fun, but I really don't know. I haven't heard anyone talk about it yet, so I'm excited to go in and just see what it's all about. And then finally, we have one of my most anticipated ARCs, The Angel Maker by Alex North, which is coming out on February 28th. I don't actually remember what this one's about, but I've loved the past 2 novels I've read from Alex North, and I'm just excited for more. So those are big plans, they're big ambitions. I'm trying to get through these books really quickly too, so we're gonna see what we can do. First, we're gonna get started with Going Dark. So I am 43% of the way through Going Dark, and I feel like things are about to start happening, so I did want to go ahead and give a first impression before I got too far in the story, because it is very readable and very easy to just keep flying through. That's how I usually feel about young adult stories. I feel like that's just kind of the nature of them sometimes, is there's just a lot of dialogue, it's moving quick, it's keeping your attention span going, so I'm flying through this one. What this story is about is this girl, Amelia Ashley, who is an influencer. She's like this beautiful blonde girl. She has this YouTube channel with tons of followers and a Patreon, and you know, she's just like an influencer, and she is dating this guy Josh, and they are just this cute little couple, and they're going on this vacation to Rome together. And when it's time for them to get back on the plane to fly back to America, Josh is at the airport, but Amelia Ashley is nowhere to be found, and he ends up just boarding the plane and flying home without her because he doesn't really know what else to do. And then he still can't get in contact with her, he can't find her, and now there's this missing persons case around her, and her audience is like making this hashtag go viral, hashtag where's Amelia Ashley, and it's becoming a whole thing. So you're mostly following Josh's perspective through the story, and he is just confused and clueless as to what happened and where she could be. And then you are also getting the perspective of this girl Harper, who is a coder, who is piecing together information from Amelia Ashley's vlogs and blog posts and hacking her way to figuring out the answer. But I expected that to be a lot more hackery, and so far it's just her like going through her YouTube videos and making any observation that anyone could make. So I don't know how much more hackery that's going to get, but apparently she's got great hacking skills, and that is how the book is going. The cops are suspecting Josh to be involved in some way. His suitcase was missing, it didn't come in time, and when it did come in, there was blood on the suitcase, and there's just a lot of different reasons why he's looking kind of suspicious. I didn't expect the book to be following Josh's perspective so closely. I thought we were going to get more from Amelia's perspective and Harper's perspective. I didn't think he was going to be the most significant POV in this book, and he is, which is getting a little boring for me, I will say, because he's just like, I'm clueless, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what's happening, but he looks really suspicious, and so I'm like, how do you not know what's happening? And I feel like his POV is just the least interesting one. I would be more interested in getting to know Amelia Ashley through these posts and to get to know Harper and how she is finding information by going through the posts. But it seems to be hinting that there's going to be some big reveal, there's some big lie, there's some big twist that's coming coming, and I feel like I'm getting really close to it, so that's why I wanted to sit down now. My first impressions of the book are, it is fast to read, but it's not giving anything really new at this moment. I'm only intrigued because I feel like I'm on the precipice of finding out some piece of information. So I'll be interested to see where the story goes, if it ends up having some grand reveal, if it ends up doing something really new and interesting. As of now, I feel like it's in 3-star territory, and we'll see where it ends up by the time I finish the book. Okay, so I finished Going Dark, and I went to update my reading spreadsheet to say that I finished reading it, and then I saw how many books I have planned for this vlog, and I forgot I planned this many books for this vlog. I usually do about 3 books per vlog, and I'm planning to do 5 in this one. So I'm gonna keep what I say about these books rather tight and short and try to do more updates and just quicker ones, because this could go on for a very long time if I don't. Final thoughts on Going Dark. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was a really solid YA mystery thriller. I had a lot of fun with it. I really particularly liked the second half even more than I liked the first half, which is kind of what I was hoping for in my last update, so I'm really glad that took a good direction. I don't think this is the most original mystery thriller that I've ever read. I've definitely read a lot of stories like this where a girl goes missing and it looks like the guy maybe did it, and who knows who really did it, and even the direction it went wasn't particularly original for me either, but I still just thought it was done really well, and I really liked the theme that the story was bringing up and the way that it brought it all to light, talking about how when a pretty blonde girl goes missing, there's all this media attention around it, or when an influencer goes missing, it would bring all this media attention. But when other types of girls, particularly girls of color, go missing, there is not as much brought up about it. It quickly gets buried, and those people don't get the attention that they deserve. I think there was a lot of clever things done with just decisions characters were making and the way it was revealed, and just the overall way that that message was brought to life in the book I thought was really clever, and I just really enjoyed it. So this one is going to end up being a 4-star for me. Not exactly a 5-star because it didn't have that oomph factor of being really original or, I don't know, like really outstanding for me, but overall it was pretty good. So next up, I'm going to be reading Where Darkness Blooms because this is the only physical copy that I have for any of these books, and I would like to take a break from reading on my screen, so this is the one we're going to be jumping into next. I am a decent chunk into Where Darkness Blooms. I'm about 100 pages in, so I thought it was a good time for a quick first little update on the book. I'm also currently doing some reading sprints with my friend Sav at her channel Riveting Reads, so that's why I have my AirPods in. If you're like, why in the world does this girl have her AirPods in doing this clip? Because fun fact, that's not so fun, is when you're doing a live show through StreamYard on YouTube, if you use AirPods and then you disconnect your AirPods and reconnect them in like a break period when you're doing reading sprints, you will sound like a robot on the live stream, and so you're just forced to keep them in the whole time, even if you have to move around. But anyway, this book is going okay so far. I've seen not the best reviews of it. I did look into Goodreads to see some early reviews, and I'm seeing a lot of 2 stars, so I'm a little bit hesitant with it. Not sure where it's gonna go, but I also feel like YA books like this usually get that kind of rating. Like, they usually are either people love them or really dislike them, so I think it's just the nature of the genre. What the story is about is you're following a set of characters, a couple girls, and I do think there is one too many girls. I wish there was one fewer girls in the story because they're a little hard to keep track of. Even 100 pages in, I have to keep trying to piece together who's who and how they're connected. But the setup of the story is these girls, Delilah, Whitney, Jude, and Bo, all live together. The oldest one is Delilah, and she's like 18, and the rest are a little bit younger. They all lived together with their moms before, but 2 years ago their moms all suddenly went missing one day, and other women go missing in this town of Bishop, which is set in like Kansas or something in the Midwest, where there are tornadoes, and it's just very much like a cornfield atmosphere. Women keep going missing, there's sunflowers, there's weird things going on. I feel like I'm not pitching the book great, but it's like just kind of one of those weird YA books where you're in this Midwestern town, there's this group of girls, their moms all went missing a couple years ago, there's some weird things happening with them, and they're trying to figure out what happened to their moms. It seems like there's some weird kind of fantasy angle coming into the book as well. There's like really strange small things, like one of the girls, anytime she touches one of the boys, Like she sparks with electricity, the wind is doing weird things, sunflowers are doing weird things. There's definitely some kind of magical element going on. And the book begins with a prologue that really sets the scene for the story, that kind of makes it feel like you know where the book's gonna go. Like I feel like I know the message it's gonna be telling and what it's going to try to do, but I could still be surprised. I'm not totally sure. So far it feels a lot like other YA books that look like this, like Rory Power's Wilder Girls or Burn Our Bodies Down or Katrina Leno's Horrid or House of Hollow. It feels pretty similar to a lot of those, and I've enjoyed all of those. Well, maybe not the Rory Power ones as much, but I've enjoyed the other ones. So I think I could enjoy this, but I could also end up not enjoying it. We could really go either way at this point. So I'm gonna keep reading and I'll update you when I am further in the book. All right, quick update. I am now halfway through the book. Page 150 out of about 300. I'm realizing what the story is. I thought this was gonna be a horror book, and I don't know if I saw that marketed somewhere or if I just imagined that because of what it looks like and told myself that. So I wanna look into that to figure that out. But this definitely is more of like a mystery thriller. And on the back of it, it says it's a supernatural thriller. So I don't know where I got this idea of it being a horror book from, but yeah, it's just about these girls whose moms went missing and they're just trying to understand what's going on in the town, what happened to their mom, and understand the supernatural thing that's going on in the town. But I just feel like it's really straightforward what's going on. I don't feel like there's going to be a big surprise. I think I have it figured out. I think it's pretty obvious. I could be wrong, I guess. I could be surprised, but just with the setup of the story, it doesn't seem like it's really trying to hide much from you. It seems like you're just watching these girls figure out what you can figure out from the book, which is kind of interesting. And I also just feel like it's a little bit repetitive because there are 4 girls whose moms all went missing and they're all going through their own little different journeys of having crushes on boys or on girls or just, you know, doing different things in life. And I feel like they're not achieving new things separately. I feel like they're all kind of telling the same story. And I'm like, I feel like this could have just been a story about one girl whose mom went missing and is doing all of these things. So I'm having a little bit of trouble. I will say it reads quickly. YA tends to read really quickly for me, but I'm not super impressed with it. And I'm kind of concerned that it's just gonna play out exactly the way I'm expecting it to. Since the book's not exciting me, let's try an exciting transition, shall we? Hello, I hope that transition was fun and cool and made that worth it. I did finish Where Darkness Blooms. I suddenly forgot the title of this and that sounded completely wrong, but Where Darkness Blooms, I finished it last night. And unfortunately, I ended up not really liking this book for a lot of reasons. I think the beginning was good and I was intrigued in the beginning because it is an interesting premise. It does have potential. It has a lot of the things that I like. It is young adult and supernatural, and there's a mystery to solve, and there are queer relationships, and there is all of the things going on that I do like in books. And I can even think of books that I've read before where some of the things I'm about to critique are things that are definitely present in other books I've liked, but this one just really went there, and that is the teen angst. There's so much teen angst in this. This felt like, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, I love Pinterest, I love a mood board, but this felt very much like building a mood board and just really leaning into the moodiness of the mood board and the teen angst, and like I can see the Pinterest board that was created, and that's good. I like that for the aesthetic, and I have liked that before, but I just felt like there was so much teen angst. Like everyone was always kissing someone or secretly crushing on someone all the time. There were just so many characters, and it's like I feel like other things should be happening here other than us worrying about who we're developing a little crush for and who we're kissing because your mom's been missing for 2 years and also like your life's at stake, and why are we worrying about like who we're kissing all the time? Like it was all the time. There was just so many crushes and it was just so much. And so I think that's really the thing that pulled me out of the story, was it was so like soapy in that way, I guess. And there's a lot of other little things that just didn't work for me in this story. Some of them are spoilery. The main things are like little details that just didn't work for me. Like why were the moms missing for 2 years before the girls did anything about it? And then I won't spoil the ending for you, but when you find out everything that happens in the ending, I was so mad. It just like didn't make sense to me what had happened and how things were being handled at that point. That just didn't work for me. And then generally I just felt like the book was really repetitive. I just felt like I kept reading the same thing over and over, and I think a large part of that is because there are 4 main girls who all feel like they are just the same person cloned into 4 different people for unknown reasons. To me, it didn't feel like there needed to be that many characters. I didn't feel like they were distinct enough. I felt like they were all kind of going through the same things. They were all kind of having the same story to tell, just in different nuanced small ways. ways. And I really feel like it would have been a stronger book if it was one, maybe two girls, but like really just down to one, I think would have gone a long way in just cleaning this up a little bit. So I have a lot of critiques. I don't have a lot of great things to say. I did feel like it had potential. I feel like I would maybe consider reading from this author again because I do like the overall idea of it and the vibes of it. It just didn't really work for me all together when all that came in together. So I will be rating this probably like a 2-star, which even sounds a little generous depending on everything I'm saying, but I did like the writing as a concept. Like I liked the prose. There were parts where it was definitely super angsty, but that was more in the characters than the actual writing. And I liked the idea of the book. I just felt like it didn't fully come together. So that was disappointing, but alas, that was my experience with Where Darkness Blooms. I keep forgetting the name of this. So weird. And now I'm going to be picking up Scorched Grace and giving that a try and seeing if I hopefully enjoy that one more. Do we want to try this again? We can try this again. Okay, goodbye. See you in a second. Transition wasn't really going to work because I had to put a title card in to break up this part of the video, but I thought it was still kind of fun the way the cabinet closed, so we're leaving that in. But anyway, update on Scorched Grace, and unfortunately it's not a good update. I started this book last night and I gave it my all. I gave it everything I had. I gave it 14% of the story, and I decided to DNF it. I originally kind of was worried that this wasn't really going to be for me because I've seen it be described as like a new entrance to the hard-boiled crime genre, and everything about it made me feel like I might not enjoy it. And then I was reading it and I was not enjoying it, and I just felt like it was not going to be any better than a 2 or 3 star for me. Not that the book was bad, it just wasn't something I was interested in. And as much as I try to give ARCs a chance, especially when the publisher is kind enough to grant access, I also have to know when it's not worth my time to keep reading something that I know I'm not enjoying. So I decided to DNF it. I've seen a lot of really other great reviews for it, so I think other people will enjoy it, but for me, I could not really get into the writing style. I just wasn't really, I don't know, like I wasn't really into this character of this dark nun with tattoos. I think she's queer. She is just like a non-conventional nun, which is a cool idea, but everything about how it was written and the writing style of it and the building of her character, I just wasn't getting sucked in. I wasn't getting convinced of the characters. Like, it didn't feel real to me. The characters didn't feel real. The dialogue didn't feel real. I just wasn't getting immersed in the writing of it. And the overall concept of it, that there is this nun who is investigating this spree of arson, like people keep setting things on fire and she's trying to figure out who is setting fire to things. That's not super compelling to me. That just does not pull me in. I was not very interested. It didn't seem like a very interesting mystery to me, and I believe this is the start of a series, and so I really just didn't feel like it was going to be for me. So decided to DNF it. Sorry to say. I've seen other people enjoy it though, so don't let that get you down if you are still interested in it, and if it does sound like something you'd enjoy, hopefully you're gonna have a better time with it than I did. I'm also here to update you about Murder Your Employer, which I started immediately after DNFing Scorched Grace last night, and I just read a significant chunk of doing some reading sprints with my members. In case you missed it, I do have a membership. We do reading sprints and book club things. We have a Discord, and details for that are always linked down below, where you can click the thing that says join my membership, and then you can read more about the details available, and there's a whole video talking about it. Just like to let people know because it is still relatively new, and if you missed a video or something, you're like, what the heck is she talking about? That's where you can find the details. But anyways, I just did reading sprints this morning with my members, and I got to 27% of this book, and I am really enjoying this one. So I feel like I made a really good decision to DNF the last book I wasn't enjoying, so I could spend more time reading things that I am liking, and this is one of those things. I was not totally sure what to expect with this story. I feel like the synopsis that I've seen everywhere is relatively vague and is in more of like a setting the atmosphere style of writing a synopsis instead of telling you these are the characters you're going to be following and the things that are going to be happening. At least the synopses that that I've been reading, but I really like the way the story is set up so far and what you're following. The setup of it is that there is this academy called McMaster's where you can go to receive an education in how to delete people, murder people. And in this story, you're going to be following 3 main characters and their stories and their journeys with their time at McMaster's, and you learn what their employers were like and why they wanted to murder them and what their experience is like at this academy. And it's just really smart. It's a very clever and witty book, which is what I expected it to be, and I'm really loving the overall style and tone of it. There's so many little puns throughout, like everything is just so funny. There's a part where one of the guys at the academy says to one of the new students, "You must be starved," and he says, "By the way, that was an observation, not a decree," because like that sentence could also be interpreted in this context of like, you must be sent to be starved, to be, because this academy has some brutal consequences for if you are not doing well as a student, and they don't really want you to leave and take all their secrets away. There's just so much mystery around the academy. It's just so funny the way it's all set up. The writing's so clever. Everything about it is so good, but it does seem like it is pretty long. I did see on Goodreads that this book was 400 pages, but by the pace of how long it's taking me to read it, I feel like it's got to be one of those books with really thin pages and like a lot of text and small text on pages. Like this feels like it's got to be a tome, but I don't know because the book's not out yet and I haven't seen any physical copies of it. So maybe I'm just reading it really slow because of the way it's written more cleverly, and I'm trying to take my time with like appreciating all the puns and just the witty way the writing is put together. But I feel like it's got to be a longer book. But all that to say, I'm still really enjoying it. I think this is like on the road to a 5-star book as long as it can keep up this pace and this intrigue level for me throughout a longer text. Then I think we're gonna be good. I think we're gonna be in 5-star territory. So I'm super excited to keep reading more of this, even if it's gonna take me a lot of hours to finish. And I will give you another update once I'm about midway in the story or so. I am having a very hard time with this book. I'm 73% of the way through it now, and I don't even remember the last time I updated you. It feels like it was millennia ago. I feel like I've been reading this book forever. It's so long, and it's just, I'm pouring so much energy into it, and I'm trying so hard to finish it and not DNF it. And at this point, I definitely am finishing it, but I still have 2 hours to go. How am I 73% of the way through and I still have 2 hours to go? It is so draining. And it's really upsetting because the book started so good and I really thought I was gonna love it. And there are times when it recaptures that magic and these scenes are so wonderfully crafted and the mystery of it is just wonderfully done. But for the most part, it's just so wordy and long, and there's so much that I feel like could be cut out, and I'm just hoping it's all worth it in the end. I did it. I finished Murder Your Employer, and that felt like running a marathon. Like, oh, it just took so long and took so much effort, and it just took so much longer than I ever thought it should have to read that book. By the end of the book, I ended up feeling around a 2-star rating for it. I really love the idea of this book. I think it has so much potential. It is just way too wordy and way too long, and the pacing is just pretty weird throughout the story. The arc of the journey of the story was just, I don't know, it was just underwhelming for me. The premise, the setup of the story is you're following these 3 characters who go to this McMaster's Academy, and you spend a very significant portion of the book with them at the academy, but you also spend a significant portion of the book with them after the academy as well. And I don't know, it just felt like neither of those parts needed to be as long as they were. I felt like the whole book was just so much longer than it needed to be, and you would just get caught up on these pages. There were just so many words, like so many descriptors, so many like random character pops in and you learn their entire life backstory in a paragraph for no reason. And I just feel like it must have been exhausting to write too. I'm just like, wow, that would have been a lot to write all of that, and it was a lot to read all of that. And it's really a shame because it could have been so fun, but it ended up just being more of a chore to read. And I'm sure this will be the type of book for some people who really like to soak into a ton of words and like spend a long time reading a book and really get immersed in the world of it. But there were just so many other things about it too that just made the story ultimately not really work for me. I felt like I never really knew who these characters were. I was looking at Goodreads reviews and someone described them as, I don't remember this exact word they used and if this is even a word, but like ectrospective. Like these were not very introspective characters. They were characters who were just examining everything that was going on around them, and you were learning about their environment, of everything that was happening around them. And sure, you knew things about them, but it didn't feel feel like you knew them. And that created just this distance for me with those characters and having as much emotional connection to them and just having the book feel alive. You know, when a book just feels so alive, like characters are jumping off the page, the world is jumping off the page. For this one, I just felt such a detachment from it for a lot of it because I couldn't get to know who these characters really were. They just felt cold because I didn't get to really know them. And there's even a character that ends up making some interesting decisions and some emotional decisions, but that didn't feel like it had the impact that it could have because I didn't feel like I really knew that character. So overall, it was just really disappointing for me. I think the setup was so good. I think it had so much potential. I wish it would have been really fun, but it unfortunately was not super fun for me in the way that it was written. I do kind of wonder if there's going to be a journey with this book where it tries to get made into a movie because the author is like a playwright and he wrote the Pina Colada song. He's just got this really interesting history to him, and I feel like this is the type of book that could get optioned for TV or a movie, and I would jump all over that. If it was coming to the screen, I would definitely give it a go. I feel like it would be much more effective in that form for me. I also wonder if this book is going to be made into a series because there's kind of this opener left at the end for ways this could continue into a series and what they would do with it. And I would feel inclined to want to read them because I'm like, I know I love the idea of it. I know it has potential, but I'm like, I just don't feel like this author is really going to be for me based on this writing style. So that was disappointing. And oh my gosh, I put so much energy into that book and I tried so hard, but it just didn't work out. They can't all work out. So that was Murder Your Employer. Now I'm on to the final book of the vlog, and we're gonna be reading The Angel Maker by Alex North, and hopefully I saved the best for last. Good morning. I am so excited to be telling you about the last book in this vlog. I've started reading it. We're closing it out. I feel like I've been making this vlog for a really long time. I'm just so used to doing 3 books in a vlog, and it takes me like a week, and this is taking like 2 weeks, and it's more books, and it doesn't seem like it'd be that big of a difference, but it really feels like a big difference to me. But I have started The Angel Maker. I started this a little bit 2 nights ago, and I only got like 14% of the way in, and then this morning I've been doing some reading sprints with my channel members, and now I am 30% of the way through the book. And while I'm on a reading break, I wanted to take a minute to give you my first impression of the book because I just got to a point that made me really like the book, and I wanted to capture the joy that I feel right now in case it goes sideways later on in the reading experience. But yeah, I am absolutely loving this so far. It is a more complex thriller. It's one of those where you have like a map and all the dots and you're trying to connect them all, and people are connected to other things, and there's a big complex mind map around it. But it's not so complex that I can't follow it, but it's just complex enough that I am taking notes for my own leisure just because I kind of want to see if I can solve what's going on. So I'm also just taking some character notes because there's kind of a lot going on in this one. The setup of the story starts with you following this woman named Katie, and you're following her at first when she was a teenager, and she has a little brother who's 2 years younger than her, and one day he's walking home from school, and instead of walking home with him, she decides that she's tired of him being a burden to her, so she wants to go hook up with her high school boyfriend while his parents aren't home, because of course she does. And her brother ends up getting really brutally attacked, but he doesn't end up dying. And then you follow many years in the future. Her brother has had a really interesting life since then. He's had issues with drugs, it seems like, and just getting into trouble, and now he has gone missing again, and she's kind of trying to figure out what's going on with him. But at the same time, there's this other storyline going on where there are these brothers, Alan and Edward, who were the sons of this guy who I think was a serial killer. And then after their father either died or went to prison, they ended up getting adopted separately and living their life separately. And then another one of them dies. And then there's also a detective storyline who's trying to piece together, because there's a connecting point between those two stories and the detective's trying to solve it all. So there's a lot going on, but it is super interesting. And what I especially like about it is there's all these philosophical ideas about free will and determinism, which isn't a concept I've heard of before, but makes sense reading about it in the story. And getting to that point and seeing how that's going to be involved in the story is what made me really like the book. And I feel like it's going to be one that has some really interesting discussions around it, and I'm just super invested in it right now. One of the people that was killed in the book is a philosophy professor, and his specialty difficulty was in determinism, which is this philosophical concept as explained in the book, not from my own understanding, that everything that's going to happen was always going to happen. And for a simple explanation of that in the book, the person who's explaining it like drops a pencil and is like, okay, why did the pencil drop? And the guy's like, gravity. He's like, my brain knew that was going to happen, and so I made that decision. But like, every decision you make is based on your brain knowing it. And so if you can trace that all the way back and say like, why did I sit down right now? Because I knew I wanted to or whatever. Every decision is already predetermined, is this concept of determinism. I probably explained that horribly. Look it up if you want to hear more in-depth explanation about it. But I just find it really interesting because it brings into all these conversations about free will and are you ever making any choices? I just really enjoy philosophy and thinking about things like that. I took one philosophy course in college and it was like one of my favorite classes, just thinking about the brain in a vat theory and free will and all these different concepts are just so interesting to think about when you look into some of the more philosophical angles of why humans do things. I was also an anthropology minor in school, which is also like a different lens of looking at different cultures and things that make humans humans. And so I always just like thinking about that deep layer of the human condition. So I feel like this is going to be a really good one for me, a thriller that has a little bit more to say, a little bit more to think on. At least I hope it is. I hope it keeps up the momentum, which is why I wanted to capture my joy right now with being 1/3 of the way through the book. I hope it sustains, and I'm just really interested to see where it all goes. I just absolutely love the setup, and I feel like it's gonna be a good one. Alrighty, so I finished The Angel Maker. This book read so super quickly, and I read it in 2 sittings, so that's why I didn't end up doing more updates along the way. And also I feel like there wouldn't have been a lot to say along the way because the story doesn't have a lot of substance, it just has a lot of complexity, and it's very slow moving as you're understanding how the complexities connect. I don't know, I feel like I wouldn't have had a lot to say along the way. Apologies if you can hear my laundry running, and also the lighting's not super great right now because it's nighttime, but I'm ready to wrap up the vlog. So hopefully this is not too bad. For The Angel Maker, I had an excellent time reading it. I was really engaged in the book. It reads super quickly, and there's so many different pieces that you're trying to put together, and you get these short chapters and it intersperses with these different perspectives that it keeps you reading. It keeps you wanting to understand more and unravel the mystery and piece together the parts and figure out who's in danger. But if I look at the book as a whole, it just doesn't hit for some reason. I think there's almost too much going on in this story. Like, there's some pieces that I don't even know if you ever really fully understand why certain things happen to certain characters, why certain people made certain decisions. Specifically, there's this character named Michael Hyde who by the end of it, I don't like get what they were doing with him in the book. And there's like an event that happens at the end that's kind of small and mentioned offhand. Don't know why it happened. Don't really get much of an explanation for it. And the book ends super abruptly. I could have used a couple more chapters to wrap things up. So it just doesn't feel like a full, I don't know, like I can't pull out the story of it. There's just so much thrown at you, so many things going on, so many distractions, so many things to untangle. Like, there's the detective POV, which is a little more prevalent in the beginning of the book, but by the end of the book, I feel like you stop really getting much of the detective POV anyway, and there's 2 detectives and you barely even see the other detective. So I feel like there's just too much going on to be able to do it all well, and it needed to trim some stuff off to be able to pack more of a punch. All that being said though, I think I'm gonna give it like a 4-star rating because I did have fun while reading it and I thought the ideas were interesting. That's another thing too, this whole concept of the philosophical arguments behind it all, fate and free will, and this determination theory, the idea of this serial killer seeing into the future and the technicalities behind that. That didn't really get built out enough for me either. By the end of the book, I'm like, wait, what? What was going on? Like, I just needed more of the best parts of the book. There was so much that everything was okay. And if you would have trimmed it down, it could have been really, really good. But it's still 4-star because I had a good experience with it, and that's the rating that feels right at this moment. So all in all, I have enjoyed every Alex North book that I've read so far. So this is definitely an author I'm going to keep reading. I think he has really interesting concepts. I like how his thrillers have like crime elements and horror elements, creepy things going on. Like preternatural stuff too. This line of, is there something supernatural happening, that also comes into the story. And I just really like all those elements. I feel like there's not a lot of authors that I've read from before that do this type of storytelling. Like, it kind of reminds me of CJ Tudor, but other than that, I can't think of many other authors who fit in this style of thriller slash crime slash supernatural question mark type of writing that just hits all of these different things. So I will definitely keep reading from this author. I would definitely recommend this book. I will just say there is a heck of a lot going on, so take some character notes if you're having trouble following what's going on. So that is it. That puts a wrap on this reading vlog, and oh boy, did it feel long, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed seeing me read all these books. Out of everything I read in this video, I would definitely most highly recommend Going Dark by Melissa De La Cruz and The Angel Maker by Alex North. I'm sure people are gonna like Scorched Grace as well, but that one just wasn't for me, and Where Darkness Blooms also just wasn't really for me. Oh, and I read Murder Your Employer, which could have been for me, but was just way too long. So I kind of had more misses than hits, but the hits were really good. I would really strongly recommend Going Dark and The Angel Maker. I think they're both worth picking up. I also think people could enjoy Murder Your Employer if you're really looking to sit with a book for a long time and you're okay that it's gonna be super long, but I don't know. I still feel like that book did not see its full potential. But yeah, that's it for the vlog. I am planning on doing a part 2 to this video series right now, because I do still have many more arcs to get to for books that are coming out in March that I would really like to get read in February. Just to give you a little preview of that, I will definitely be reading Piñata by Leopoldo Gout, because I do have a physical copy of that book as well. And then for that video, I'm probably only going to read 3 books in it, just to make it a little bit more manageable. And I have 4 other books to choose 2 from. So I'll tell you the 4 books. Let me know which 2 you're most interested in seeing featured in that vlog along with Piñata. We have What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez, What Have We Done by Alex Finlay, Unnatural Ends by Christopher Huang, and Not So Perfect Strangers by L.S. Stratton. So let me know down in the comments below which 2 of those books you'd be super interested in seeing alongside Piñata in the next video, and hopefully I'll have that one to you very soon. Also, let me know down in the comments if you're excited about any of the books you saw in this video and if you're planning on picking any of them up. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!